When you go pick up that mulch bag out of the back of your car or the back of your truck, I want you to do 10 squats with it, holding it across your chest. Or I want you to walking lunge it to the bed. And now we're creating exercise. You're not going to the gym. You're not lifting weights. You're just working out while you do your thing. And so like finding creative ways to sneak stuff in to the daily life, I think it's fun. If you can gamify it, it makes it even better. And then just kind of grow it from there.
So one of the things that I really like to dive into people, we can talk philosophical all day long, but I really like to get more into the nuts and bolts for people, because I think we've gotten to this place, I think, in workshops and in coaching and in therapy and things, where people are like, let me tell you all these things about problems and ways you should think about it and approach it. But then people are left with like, yeah, but what do I do now? Like, what's my next step? How do I start to handle this in my own daily life? So I don't like to leave conversations or meetings, period, without actionable steps. And so one of the things I like to do with this show is share with people what are the things that they can start to do. And so when you think of daily, weekly habits that people can start to benefit themselves in the world that you live in, and this idea of performance, I don't usually do this, but I'd like to take two approaches with you, Frank, because you're in a unique circumstance. I think you could literally work with any human being and help them in their physical wellness. So I'd like to ask you to split this question into two. One, for people who are maybe just starting out, what they can do to start to really dive into like regular habits, and then maybe some high level performers, because I have a lot of those that listen to the show that can like take it up a notch a little bit if they're feeling like they're stuck or something. So
I think with everything, and this the two big things that I really think people struggle with, and this is with your beginners now, kind of address the beginner question first, is having a plan. And, this is very cliche, but it's so true. If you fail to plan, then you can plan to fail. And I just see that so much where people walk into the gym and it's like, well, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do some of this thing. And I'm going to go over there. I'm going to do some of this thing. And if that's not occupied, I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to get the hell out of there because it's a little bit intimidating. And so sitting down and coming up with a plan and knowing what you're going to do before you execute. And so I like to sit down on Sundays. I map out all my meals for the week, what I'm going to eat, breakfast, lunch, dinner. If I'm going to eat a fun meal or a cheat meal, you want to call it, I schedule that and plan that so that I don't get to a point in the week where it's like, oh, I'm supposed to eat dinner and I don't know what to prepare. You're always going to make a bad choice when you get to that place, no matter how disciplined you are. And so sitting down and having a plan. What am I eating for breakfast? What am I eating for lunch? What am I eating for dinner? What are my snacks going to look like throughout the week? And then prep those things so that they're ready to go. Make it as easy as possible. One of my favorite guys in the world, Coleman Ruiz, who helped me get this job. He's a former Navy SEAL. He came and talked to our team at UCLA and talked about automating your process. And so like that to me sets you up for success. So the first thing is fueling. Like, how am I fueling for the week? Because if I can't get that right, it's going to be really hard to train and do anything else at a high level. And so planning the meals out, prepping the meals, making sure that the food is ready to go, meal prep, whatever that looks like. If you have the resources, the money to buy that, that's fine. If you've got to go out and cook the meals, that's great. But don't leave it up to in the moment, because you'll make the wrong choice when you get there. If there are meetings, travel, those types of things, account for that and have a plan for how you're going to address that. Because I think that's where we really, like, I know for my guys, when travel hits, if they don't have a plan, it's, oh, well, I didn't know what to do. McDonald's was right there, so I went. Or I didn't have anything prepared, and we were at the airport, and the airport bar was there, and so they had the burgers and the this and the that, and that's what I ate. And it's like, okay, well, let's on the front end pack some sugar-free beef jerky. Let's pack some nuts. Let's pack some sugar-free dried fruit. And then you've got something that fits your plan to eat so that you're not hungry, not hangry, and you're reaching for that bad choice. The same thing needs to exist with your training plan. So which days of the week are you training? What are you doing on each week? You talked about being intentional about training, and I say it all the time, being deliberate and intentional with everything that you do when it comes to training. So what is it that I'm doing? Why am I doing it? What's the plan to get me there? And then being able to adjust, because life happens, right? And so like as I'm looking at where I want to put my workouts, during the day, I know that if I train early in the morning, there's zero chance. If I'm in my facility at 5 a.m., there's zero chance anybody's going to bother me for anything because there's nobody there. I'm the only one. And so, again, that works for me. I'm not saying that you need to be up at 5 a.m. I'm not one of these people that like is recording my Instagram day and I'm in the cold plunge and then I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And that's the only way you can be a successful human. You've got to find what works for you. I know this, that if you're planning on working out at lunch, or working out at like 2 o'clock, and that's right in the middle of like email rush time or meeting rush time, you're going to lose that opportunity, and you need to be able to guard that time like it's sacred. And so having that plan laid out and knowing what you're doing and when you're going to train or when you're going to eat, those two things to me set people up for success at a really high level and help them. For people that are already high performers, I think finding what the small adjustments that need to be made, because really, like, when people are already up here, it's all about the tiny adjustments. So we worked with like guys that were in their fifth year. We were less concerned about like bench and squat max numbers. Like, that was easy. Like, we could drive that stuff up all day. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about like getting that guy's 40 time down by 2/10 or whatever it is, so that they're able to go out and be like that ultra high performer. And so then we start talking about like aim small, miss small, and what are like the little changes, the small things that we can do. And so maybe that's tracking, like really getting into high level tracking on my macro, my micronutrients, and looking at what those things look like, and then journaling to say, okay, this is how I felt on these days. These are the things that I know that I might need to adjust based on that. Same thing with your training, and then sparsing it down into like individual training metrics. I love wearables. I love getting into data on wearables. And so like a lot of guys that are like super high performers that are trying to make improvements, being able to look at cardiac output, acute to chronic work rest ratios, those things to me can make a huge difference when it comes to being able to be ready to go and make those extra adjustments. And so being able to leverage technology for your ultra high performers, I think, is huge. And that includes with your sleep as well. And so like finding ways to fine tune sleep, finding ways to fine tune performance in the gym through leveraging technology, I think is so important.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree more. I love that idea that you mentioned, like the intentionality and the planning. I don't, for years, because I'm an early morning guy, I do it in the morning because I won't do it in the afternoon. Too many things have happened, both in terms of my level of stress and my motivation, other things getting in the way, yada yada. And I always go back and forth. Part of me is like, do it whenever it works well for you. The other part of me is like, just suck it up and get up in the morning because you're a human and you're like everybody else. And if it's 5 o'clock, you're probably not going to do it. Now, there's plenty of people who go to classes that would argue otherwise. If you have a 5:30 p.m. class and there are people there, it's one of the benefits that CrossFit again had was there was this accountability in this community, right? You didn't know everybody in your spin class or your body pump class, but you knew everybody in your gym or your box. And so there's that accountability piece. So if you're going to do something in the evening, my 100% suggestion would be find somebody else to do it with that you're not willing to say no when life gets stressed. But to your point, you got to keep it sacred. Those are some of the things that you would do for a doer, right? I also like to throw out shout out to the thinkers out there. With the caveat, don't think so much. Try to act. Don't plan so much that you forget to actually do. But for those people who are looking to learn a little bit more about this space and what they can do, what kind of book or resource might you recommend that they look into to get some more knowledge on this subject?
Just in strength and conditioning or health and wellness. What are you like specifically?
I'll
What are you thinking?
I'll leave it to you because I think that you, as a coach who's been doing this for a while, would know more about what's going to get people off the couch. And I'm guessing it's probably not anatomy and physiology by human kinetics, right?
Yeah, try to get out of those type of books. So you actually got one over your left shoulder there, "Outlive" by Dr. Peter Attia, which I think
Oh,
has
oh
been a
yeah.
tremendous book for a lot of people in learning. And I think if you are just getting started in uh, lifting barbells and those types of things, "Starting Strength" by Mark Ripito is an outstanding book to get into because it's very simple, very easy to follow, and so those two kind of just jumping into books like those things are easy reads, and they're great tools and resources to kind of get people started when it comes to like what do you need. Like the "Outlive" book I think is great because it's one of those um, user guides for the human body. I think that's a great tool. And then the Ripito book I think is great because there's so much great information there when it comes to just resources for uh, uh, learning how to lift barbells and lift barbells properly.
Yeah, I think that's great too, because there's tons of books out there on running and stuff too. But I think one of the reasons that strength is something that people need to be more hyper aware of is because they feel there's this misconception that there's more risk of injury. And to a degree, there can be if you go into it with the same mentality as you had when you were in high school. But it's easier to suggest that strapping on a pair of shoes and hitting the open road is safer because there's less movement involved. But although running is the most injurious activity that there is, so even though people think it's safe, it's most certainly not. It's very plyometric movement that should deserve a lot more respect and shouldn't be done from people who are 50, 60 pounds overweight. So I like your suggestion that looking into a strength book is a vital kind of first step in better understanding that. Or is there anything else, any other reasons why you think looking into strength might be helpful for somebody who's maybe just trying to learn a little bit more?
Well, I mean, like your muscle is the largest organ in the body, right? I mean that in and of itself. Like, how do I take care of and develop that organ because it's going to protect every. It's going to, especially as we age, that's protecting my skeletal structure. I mean, one of the things that we're telling older women that are getting into their 50s and 60s, they need to strength train because of the risk of osteoporosis. And so, if we're able to start that earlier on and get people down that road earlier on so they understand it. It takes some of the, I feel like there's just so much mysticism about it. And it's not hard. Like, you can use your body as a barbell and be just fine for your entire life. I think, I really don't think that all of this, expensive fitness equipment and gym memberships are even necessary. Like, yeah, if you want to look like Arnold, like, yeah, you gotta pump iron. But if you want to just be a functional, normal, healthy human being, you can do body weight work and be extremely successful with that for the rest of your life. And the risk of you hurting yourself doing body weight work, especially if it's just basic strength training, is little to none. And really, even if you were doing jumping and plyometrics as a normal person, most normal, and I'm just saying normal human being, like not Division I professional athlete level people, will not generate enough force to injure themselves with it. Now, there are those, I call them mutants, like those people that are 40-inch verticals and they're running 4.240s. Like, can they jump and hurt themselves? Absolutely. Like, that is a very real thing. Can a normal person run and hurt themselves through running? Absolutely, they can. That's a very real thing because, like you said, the ground reaction forces that are involved in that are dangerous, especially at high volumes. I don't necessarily have to move fast. The volume of that will accumulate over time on the skeletal structure, on the ligament structure and the tendons. And so if I don't have the muscular system there to help support that, it's going to make it much more difficult. So I think that walking and I think that basic strength training for people who are overweight is a great way to get started. Like, people come to me and say, oh, I can't run. I don't want to run. What can I do to get healthy? Oh, you got an Apple Watch. Cool. Let's start you off by walking 10,000 steps a day. Let's just start there. Let's do some basic body weight movement. And I don't even want you to like do a squat. I want you to, like, every time you sit down in front of the TV, I want you to sit down and stand up 5 times. Just 5 times. Just sit down and stand up 5 times. Like, and these are just people like that have done nothing. Like, they're in their 60s and 70s. They have done nothing. Let's just kind of get rid of some of like this mysticism about like what exercise is. Like, let's sneak exercise into your day. Let's set a timer on our phone where every 45 minutes an alarm goes off and we're going to go downstairs. We're going to take the stairs. We're going to do a lap around the building. We're going to get some fresh air. We're going to get some sunshine. We're going to get some steps in. We're going to come back up the stairs. Then I'll come back to my desk and I'll do some things. Or when that alarm goes off, I can't leave because I'm in a space that doesn't allow me to leave. I'm going to do some body weight squats or I'm going to do some push-ups. And yeah, my office mates are going to look at me a little bit funny and they're going to laugh, but we'll have something to talk about other than politics, thank goodness. And then, it's good for you. It's healthy for you. And so, like, developing those little habits, there's a cool study that we talk about in some of our workshops where they told hotel workers, half of them, they told that their work was exercise and half of them they told that their work was just their work. The ones who they told their work was exercise actually lost weight over the course of the study versus the ones who didn't. And so, like, if you start kind of thinking about things, like, I'll get this a lot, especially from older women who say, I don't want to lift weights. I'm not interested in that. I don't want to do it. It's like, cool. What do you do? Like, what do you enjoy doing? Well, I garden. Awesome. I love that. Do you do mulch? Yes, I do mulch. Cool. So here's what I want you to do. When you go pick up that mulch bag out of the back of your car or the back of your truck, I want you to do 10 squats with it, holding it across your chest. Or I want you to walking lunge it to the bed. And now we're creating exercise. You're not going to the gym. You're not lifting weights. You're just working out while you do your thing. And so, like, finding creative ways to sneak stuff in to the daily life, I think it's fun. If you can gamify it, it makes it even better. And then just kind of grow it from there.
Yeah, that's tremendous. One of the things I also recommend to my clients is stacking in some way all the different dimensions of wellness that you can within that. So to your point, let's get some more activity in your work life. You work in a cubicle. So one thing you're going to do is walk. What does walking help with? It helps not only with physical wellness, but also, reduces stress because you get a chance to step out and kind of unwind for a second. So your emotional well-being is beneficial. Hey, can you convince somebody else that it's also helpful for them? So you can actually take a walk and learn more about them and ask them how their mom's doing and make a social connection. Perfect. Social wellness, emotional wellness, physical wellness, all right there. And so I think there's so many ways that you can incorporate all these different things. And what I tell people, exercise should be hard, but it shouldn't be complicated. It should stress you in some way, but it doesn't have to be complicated, right? If you walk 10 miles a day for your job as a nurse, walking a mile at home is probably not going to do much for you. So you got to question that. Like, maybe you could spend your time elsewhere, but it does not have to be complicated. And you can find ways to make it beneficial to you in a lot of different ways.
One of the things that we've done where I work is I've developed monthly fitness challenges, and because I work with, it's essentially a paramilitary organization. Like, we do like warrior challenges, like the Murph, like the Mannion Wad, those types of things. And every month we do something different. And so, like, making that a point of community where we tie it in with something else, a social component, which you just talked about. So it's like, hey, on Friday, we're all going to get together in the gym and we're going to do the Murph. And then when we're done, everybody brings something that they want to share, and then we're going to have breakfast, and we're going to socialize, and we're going to eat, we're going to break bread together. And so now, not only are we improving our fitness, but we're also improving our social well-being, our mental well-being, because we're creating a sense of community, which, again, we're going back to CrossFit. Like, people always ask what I think of CrossFit. I think CrossFit's done more for fitness in this country than anything or anybody since Richard Simmons back in the 80s, because it's gotten people interested in exercising again. Now, we can talk about means and methods and all that crap all day long. I'm not interested in having that conversation. Like, it creates a sense of community, it creates a sense of purpose, and it gets people off their asses and gets them into the gym doing something. And in the hands of a good coach, that is all you need. That is all you need. And we don't need to talk about any other stuff around it, because that's just going to cause problems. But that right there is more than enough. And so, like, even in our space, like, people come in and say, hey, I can't do the full Murph. What can I do? I can't do a pull-up. Awesome. Can we do an inverted pull-up? Can we do a seated row? I mean, we got dumbbells. We've got a cable stack. Can we do a dumbbell row? Let's come up with let's find a place for you to go so that A, you can participate, B, you can move, and C, you can be part of this community. And so, like, those types of things, kind of looping into what you're doing, are things that we're doing at our place as well, just to help build fitness, build community, build camaraderie, build a culture where people are excited to come to work every day.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of the reasons that's so important is because we're getting so siloed in our society these days. If you work from home, especially, like, your work is your work and you don't get social interaction there. You don't get physical wellness from it by any means. You get work. If you're lucky and you're doing something you love, you get spiritual wellness or vocational wellness, and you get financial wellness. But back in the day, if you worked in a factory, the people that you worked with, you went and had drinks with, or you went and you were a part of a community where you connected. And so you got all that through your work, your sense of belonging, your sense of purpose, physical activity. And so I think restructuring that, and in whatever way you want to do it, CrossFit's one way, but if you can find a community of individuals doing similar things to help in all these different areas, I think you're hitting the jackpot. Yeah. All right. I got to ask, what's your training routine look like?
Yeah. So typically Sundays are recovery days for me. So I don't do a whole lot on Sundays. It's my meal prep day and kind of my sit down and get everything laid out for the week. Day, go to the grocery store. That's my setup week. Make sure everything's squared away. Monday mornings, I like to lift weights. And then Monday nights, I go to jiu-jitsu. I train jiu-jitsu on Monday nights. Tuesdays are big running days for me, and I do like an ancillary lift on Tuesdays. Wednesdays in the morning, I'll swim. And then in the evening, I go to jujitsu again. Thursday looks like Tuesday, some ancillary lifting in the morning and running in the afternoon. Friday is like a big lift day. Like that's kind of like my big day to get after it in the gym. And then Saturday, I do a long, slow distance run and also do jujitsu in the morning, like an open mat. It's not a class, it's just an open mat type thing. And so that's the routine I try as best as I can to follow. I'm not 100% by any means. I'm not perfect, but I try to stick to that as best I can.
Sure. So you're human is what I'm hearing.
And very much so. Flawed in every way possible.
You and me both, brother. I love it. I love it. Frank Wintrich, what can people research? Where can they go? What can they do to learn more about you, what you have going on, or anything you want them to know more about in this space?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. Just my name, look me up. I think I'm the only one that's out there. I think there's another one in Germany somewhere, but he doesn't have bald hair and a beard like I do. So I'm pretty easy to spot in a crowd or on social media. I'm not a very exciting follow. I'm not good at posting stuff or putting stuff up, but I do love when people reach out to me and being able to connect with people and help them that way. And I've done that a lot. And so if people are interested in connecting with me on social media through LinkedIn, I'm more than happy to visit with people, talk to people, have these types of conversations because I'm a coach. Like I through and through, like that's not just what I am; it's who I am as a person. And I want to help people. I want to help people be the best versions of themselves that they can be. I'm trying to do that for myself every day. And so, if I can bring some people along with me, expand my sphere of influence, and make the world a better place through the work that I'm doing with O2X and just ancillary to O2X, then I'm excited and happy to do that. So that's where I'm at there.
That's great. And I can attest that you will connect with people when they reach out to you, because that's exactly why we're sitting here having this conversation today. So, Frank, I really appreciate not only the time you've given us today, but also just all the work that you've done to help people become better in all aspects of their lives. So thank you so much.
That's a privilege. Thank you.